So today I'm going to talk to you about tourism through the eyes of people with spinal cord injury, traumatic brain injury and stroke. And I'm not just going to talk about accessible tourism, but I'm also going to introduce the concept of inclusive tourism because that's something that's very important to them. This is based on work that I've done and am currently completing. So for me, occupation is something that's really important for health and well-being. And I also really believe in the storytelling that comes from individuals who have the lived experience. They're the experts in their experience, and they're the experts to help us find the solution. So that's very much what drives the research that I'm going to talk to you about today. As an occupational therapist, I want to know where these people are going and what they're doing in their day. It's not just what they do for work. Occupations are everything that they do that's meaningful and important to them. And we know that tourism is something that's important for people and important for their lives. So that's what I want to understand for these groups that I've been working with. I also have a very strong human rights perspective. I really believe in the rights of people with disability to engage equally in civic and cultural life. And that accessible tourism doesn't just mean that someone can access something, but for them it's actually a positive experience. Their experience should be equal to anybody else's. We measure occupations using this measure, asking people to tell us how important tourism is, how they rate their performance, and their satisfaction with performance, out of 10. And as you watch this, you can see the numbers dive down, and satisfaction at 5.2. So this is an area that we need to focus on. People tell us that after their injury or their stroke, that their travel patterns change significantly, even for a day trip, a drive out into the countryside. People are doing that much less. So this is something that we should be focusing on and that we should be thinking about. People tell us also, around 68% of people tell us that they pretty much expect that something's going to go wrong and they know that they're going to have transport difficulties. Equally, around 20 to 30% of people tell us there's just no options for me or that I don't travel anymore because it's just too hard. When we ask people about that experience, the overwhelming sense is that we know that something's going to go wrong. We try to counteract that, we research extensively, but we just don't get the right information and we're not listened to. People make assumptions about what we need, and often things that are advertised as accessible actually aren't. We audited 150 websites of accommodation providers around southeast Queensland around what we see as basic information around accessibility. No one went even close to reaching 50% of that information on their websites. So there is this great information void for people when they are planning and booking. My father's in a wheelchair and I was recently trying to plan a trip with him, and we found this location that said it was accessible, but these photos tell me nothing about that shower. This could be easily solved by supporting people to understand how to put information up on their websites that actually allows people to make informed decisions without having to contact. So here's a gold standard. Written information, some interactive features where people can go and look more closely at what's available to them, and even better still, a walk around view, like when you're trying to sell your house, of what's in this accommodation. That's what's needed on websites to help people make informed decisions. So this is my first main message to you. If we want to achieve accessible tourism, it starts with the planning and booking and making much better information available to people on websites so that they have an experience that's similar to ours, where we can make informed decisions. My second message to you is about inclusiveness. There's a 30-year-old who I spoke to who said, I'm sick and tired of people telling me that I can go on tours with the over 55s, which cut me just a little bit, because I have a mobility issue. I don't want to go with those people. I want to be with people my age. I want to go on the tours with people my age, not the ones that are considered accessible. That's what inclusion is. Inclusion also means not showing up in a town to find that a heritage experience only has an accessible afternoon 2 days before you arrived there. So just like I would argue quiet hour should be more than 1 hour a week at Woolworths, equally accessible experiences should be more than once a week when we're travelling. Inclusion means that when these two fellows rock up to two attractions, both in their wheelchairs, they can sit side by side in their wheelchairs and not, as was their very recent experience, one of them had to get out of the chair so that they could sit together and his chair was taken away from him. That's not what inclusion looks like. Inclusion means being able to get down into the thick of that show and see what's happening, not sit up in the back as per the right photo, or as was observed by that individual, a father and daughter in a wheelchair pushing across the paddock to try to get close down to the front to be part of the show, but still have a fence between you. Inclusion and accessibility means that even though I know if I arrive and all the disability parking bays have been filled, that's okay, because if I have to park at the back, there should still be a safe, accessible path for me to make my way to the front, not one that feels a little bit unsafe, like this one currently does. Inclusion means the first thing that the fellow with the spinal cord injury said to me when he showed me this photo was, "Look at these marble bathrooms. I feel like I'm getting the proper experience of this accommodation that everybody else gets. It's not the accessible, adapted, looks a little bit substandard." This is what inclusion looks like. Now, I know this is a really hard thing because we have a lot of different disabilities and a lot of people who want to travel. But my message to you today is these are the experts in these experiences. They're also going to be the experts in the solutions. So we need to work with these people alongside them to help develop this industry. Because as one person said to me post their stroke, who really had quite hidden disabilities, no one would know it to look at me, but these changes to my travel have completely changed my life and my quality of life. So we need to think about people more in all of our research that we are planning.